Pioneer and a visionary. She has spent an extensive time abroad living in Egypt and Ukraine during their revolutions, and her passion is to be a bridge amongst diverse cultures and religions, inspiring the elevation of consciousness on the planet. She was our very first international youth community spiritual leader, and she has been a guest teacher in our Temenos organization in Ukraine for 11 years, and she is on the cover of the current issue of the Science of Mind magazine. And we get her. So without further ado, the title of the talk today is Love Without Conditions, the Work We Do from Within. First, please welcome Elisha.
Well, good morning. It is really wonderful to be here. I was here, I think, about 2 years ago, and it's been a while since I've seen most of you, so it's really great to be back. Just by a show of hands, I just want to know how many of you know what the launching pad is? Oh, okay, most of you. This is good. So just to sum it up really quickly for those of you who don't know, the launching pad was founded by Reverend Linda Rapon almost 5 years ago at this point, I think. 4 or 5 years. It's been a while. And she got a call to open up a ministry for the young adult population of Science of Mind, because most of our churches serve the youth really, really well, and there seems to be a sort of space where after they graduate high school and turn 18, they sort of drift off, and maybe they come back when they have kids, but there's this sort of chunk of people in the middle that sort of disappear for a while. So the launching pad became really, at this point, the only ministry in Centers for Spiritual Living that is specifically focused towards young adults, which are people 18 to 35-ish, whatever that means. Young adult, I think, is really something that's within, and it's a mentality, not necessarily an age, but, you know, whatever. I always tell people the youngest young adult we have at Launching Pad Berkeley is 85. Or the oldest young adult, sorry, not the youngest. So one of the things that emerged in the very beginning of the launching pad, I've been part of the community, not since its inception, but since its birth. And really immediately, what came clear is that the purpose of this ministry is love. Underneath everything else, the purpose of the launching pad is to be a space for love, to cultivate love, to be love in a bigger way. And our talk this morning is about loving without conditions, and how many of us strive to experience or activate or show up from a space of unconditional love. Okay, there's a few hands. Maybe. So I'm going to read you a little quote. I don't actually know who it's from, but I love it, and this felt so in alignment with what else I want to say after this. So here we go. Dear human, you've got it all wrong. You didn't come here to master unconditional love. That is where you came from, and it is where you'll return to. You came here to learn personal love, universal love, messy love, sweaty love, crazy love, broken love, whole love, infused with divinity. Lived through the grace of stumbling, demonstrated through the beauty of messing up, often. You didn't come here to be perfect. You already are. You came here to be gorgeously human, flawed and fabulous, and then to rise again into remembering. Right? And I read that because that so incredibly sums up my experience of living at the launching pad for 3 years, and now being the director and founder and leading a launching pad in another community now for almost 2 years. And to me, that so sums up the experience that I've had of the launching pad, because on some level, it's a very different kind of spiritual community. Because not only are we a center like you are, where you have classes and you meet once a week and you come together in spiritual community, but we also live together in a house. There's a group of people who live there who are the center point of the community, and it's an intentional spiritual community. And then we have service on Friday nights because Sunday comes after Saturday night, and, well, it doesn't work out so well. And so, but there's something about living together in that way where we are called to show up in a much more authentic way. There's no escaping. There's no room, in my experience, for spiritual bypass. I mean, there's always room for spiritual bypass, but when you're living together with people who are wanting to practice and believe and stand in the principles of science of mind on a daily basis, who are there to remind you of that in every experience that you share, there's something else that happens. And I think that the launching pad for me is kind of like, it's like a compressed experience of life. Because here in our spiritual communities, we have the opportunity to show up that way with each other, to see each other in our wholeness, and to remind each other when we step out of integrity, and to bring each other back in. But there's something about living together on a daily basis that invites us to do that in a deeper and more authentic way. And I think that the experience of the launching pad is really just it's a microcosm of the bigger picture of life that all of us are engaged in. And one of the things that's shown up for me is that if I really believe that God is all there is, that means that every situation that comes up in front of me, every person who I'm looking at, is God showing up in front of me. And so that causes me to have to come from a place of complete and total non-judgment, of seeing that everyone in front of me, if you are God in action, then I don't know what it is that you are here to express. I don't know who you came here to be or what gift you came to bring to the world. And so I have to remember continuously that if God is all there is, then you are God as well. And that no matter what experience I have of you, no matter what experience you have of me, it's an invitation for us to see God in each other, to remember that there's only one of us here, and that one is evolving and expressing and growing continuously, to remember that experience of pure unconditional love. Because that's the essence of who we are. It's where we'll return to, and we get to come into this human experience for this really messy, fun unfoldment of each other. And if I stand in a place of complete and total non-judgment and allow myself to see you as God, then I also have to remember that you are a reflection of me. That every experience that we share together, we have mutually created. And that if I show up in a way that triggers you, or you show up in a way that triggers me, you're my reflection, and I'm yours. And that there is something that calls us deeper continuously to always see God reflecting back into each other. Because how different would our experiences be if every day, with every person we saw, with everything we saw in the news, with every experience we have, every conversation, every action that happens on the road, how would our lives be different if every single encounter we had with life in any way, we said, how is this God revealing himself to me? How is this God revealing herself to me? How is this God showing up in my life? It's a different state of consciousness that allows us to stand in I think the deepest truth of science of mind, which is that God is all there is. And the thing I love about living in spiritual community is that it calls me to stand in principle all the time. And if I step out just a little bit, I'm reminded lovingly to step back in. And that's what we come into these places for. We come into our centers for spiritual living, into our communities, into our Sunday services, our classes, our Friday nights, whatever it is. We come together to be reminded that we are all reflections of each other, that we are all expressions of the one, and that we have to allow each other to be as we are, without any judgment. Not without discernment, but without judgment. Because if someone in front of us is stepping out of integrity, I feel that on some level it's our call to remind them of who they are and gently bring them back into awareness. And I think that as I stand up to do that, I invite others to do that for me. So we want to continuously come from a place of non-judgment, where we allow ourselves to see that God is looking back at us through the eyes of every person we encounter, and that every experience we have is Spirit revealing itself. And to allow everyone in front of us to show up just as they are, so that they'll have the grace to allow us to show up just as we are. And if we believe that I am God and you are God, then every action that unfolds through me or through you in every moment is absolutely perfect. And I can't judge that because I don't know what you need to evolve, and you don't know what I need to evolve. So we have to have the grace to love each other through our growing experiences. And beyond that, I think that it calls us, being in spiritual community and just being in a relationship with humans, actually, calls us to stand in our truth, to hold fast to what we know is pertinent and necessary for our expansion. For us to be in alignment with our heart's desire, we have to stand in our truth. And even if it's not in alignment with someone else's truth who's showing up in front of us, if I'm aware that I am the universe expressing itself, and so are you, there's a place where our truth can meet. But I feel it's so important for us to stand unwavering in our truth, in the awareness that we are the universe expressing itself. To stand deeply and hold fast to that knowingness that no matter how you show up, I see you as God. Because that opens up something within us, that even though we are here in this human experience and that we came from unconditional love, that we stepped out of oneness into this experience of separation, that experience is expanding us and it's growing us. And that every moment that we breathe deeper into the awareness that there's only one of us here, that love expands a little bit. But we have to do it from within ourselves first. We have to do it within our consciousness. I think that's the thing that I love about Science of Mind so much, is that it calls us to operate not on what we see, but to start with how we think. That falls deeper and becomes what we believe, that then manifests again as what we see. And that we don't start with what's out there, we start with what's in here. And that I have to start every day from a place of remembering that God is all there is. And that if I remember that first, to me that awareness is a call to see you as God and to judge not what I see in the world as being anything other than that. And to give a space of allowing and permission for all of us to let life grow us, to let life unfold us, and to continuously ask the question, how is this God showing up in front of me? And to take it a step further and just continuously bring ourselves back to that truth, that God is all there is, and stand in that awareness unwavering, so that we can go out into the world, so we can have experiences with each other, so that we can open up human consciousness to a place that says, yes, there's only one of us here, and that one is showing up right now. So I'm going to ask you just to take a breath and just feel your truth and the allowing and the ease of that breath that moves in and through us. And I'm going to invite my friend Reverend Savanna to come up here and take it over.
Wow, thank you, Elisha. Good morning. I am so deeply grateful to be here in this community. I think the last time I was here actually was probably 6 or 7 years ago. I actually performed with Bodhi. Do any of you remember that? It was quite a while ago. Let me move my talk up here. So this community is dear to my heart. I don't know if any of you know this, but I know that you have been contributing to the expansion of science of mind in the world in Ukraine. And Ukraine is like my second home. I've been there so many times, spent so much time there over the last 13 years. And so I'm grateful to you for your contributions and for all the work that you do to support the growth of this teaching in the world. So life is where we do the work, as Elisha was just pointing out. And I want to start by just saying that the launching pad has been a really incredible community in my life over the last year. I finished ministerial school and I moved my life to this area, to the Bay Area, which has always been a dream of mine. And the launching pad has just supported me in that transition of where I want my ministry to go. It's been a place for me to express myself and to just be that launching place. It provides support for young adults to really express all that they are and to have a safe place to do so. So I'm grateful to this ministry. So I want to take what Elisha has so beautifully spoken to here, and I want to bring it outward into the greater sense in the context of the planet and the world, and our part in it. So many of you might know that this past September, Reverend Barbara Leger, who spoke here last weekend, she asked me to fill in for her at her peace conference this past September, and it was a very last-minute trip. And she said, "Savanna, I really can't go. I really want you to go." And so it was a week and a half, and I was on a plane to Ukraine. And I'm not unfamiliar to revolution and conflict in countries. And somehow I believe that I was put on this planet to go into the dark places, to be a light and a channel for love. And so I was at the gate and at SFO checking my bags, and the guy looks at my ticket and he says, "Are you sure you want to go there?" And I'm like, oh, I got myself to the airport. Please don't put this fear in me right now. And I've got to tell you, it was my 6th trip to Ukraine over the last, 11 years, and this was by far the scariest trip for me. Even living in Egypt during the revolution, you know, there's something about the energy of going into conflict like that that really requires a certain level of trust and faith in the truth of what we teach and what I know. And so I'm on the plane in Switzerland, and you know, when you're traveling like that, you're kind of really delirious by that point. And the plane was half empty. And that's when I knew that, okay, there's something bigger going on here, and I'm going right into the midst of it. And so I started to panic, and I started to go into all of the what ifs and creating stories about what was going to happen, and oh my gosh, what if the plane gets shot down, and all of these just crazy stories, right? Because we go there. And then I realized, okay, I'm on this plane for a reason. I'm here by divine appointment. There's a reason I'm going into this country. And I started to pray, and I started to come back to what I remember. And what was so amazing about this experience is that once I got there, the entire thing unfolded in such a magnificent and beautiful way. We had refugees come into the conference unexpectedly, just floated into our circle. They could feel the energy and the love and the peace there. And so it was about me not judging by appearances, really, of loving completely no matter what, of trusting completely no matter what, and asking myself, how strong is my faith right now? Can I see God, as Elisha pointed out, in everything and everyone in every moment? Can I trust that I'm here for a reason? I believe that everything starts in consciousness. And that was what was testing my faith on this plane was, okay, do you really believe this? Do you really believe that God is everything? Do you really believe that you're here on purpose? But so often what we see is that when we make the commitment to love without conditions, then everything unlike that shows up, right? Everything unlike the joy and the harmony and the love and the peace, everything comes to show us the unhealed or disowned aspects of ourselves that maybe we haven't integrated into the whole. So it's about not judging by appearances, really. Even not about judging ourselves. And it's also about, yes, allowing experiences of life and of people to show us what we believe. Have you ever noticed when we get triggered, we get a moment to see ourselves, if we so choose? I had this experience big time living in Egypt because all of the distractions and the roles that I had identified with myself had fallen away. They had stripped away. And so all of the unhealed stuff, all the childhood traumas, all the everything was allowed to come through. Actually, I really didn't have a choice. It was kind of like one of those 2x4s that we see that happens when you don't look at that stuff. I think that darkness really serves us in really beautiful ways. It's like that creative soil where we get to reveal more life and to reveal more of what it is that we need to know about ourselves. Have any of you read the article yet? Awesome. So I want to read a few quotes from here. It's so cool to finally get to quote yourself. I had a dream 15 years ago to write for Science Mind magazine, and it was something that I wrote down during a church camp, a youth camp. And I could have never have planned this, you see. It just happens when you're unattached to the outcome and you know what you want. For all of us, we are always getting the opportunity to surrender moment by moment to the presence, to love itself, to something greater than we can rationalize or think up. We must trust in the creativity of the darkness, the holy unknown places, for they bear rich fruit when we've released our attachments to the way that things must be. So I think this really calls us to see how the people and the experiences in our life are here to really teach us. They're here to really uncover those obstacles and those things within us that maybe we have been putting off or denying. Because what we teach is that everything is wholeness, that we're part of this universal presence of life that is whole. There is a wholeness happening, and yet we have this human experience of conflict and struggle. And so we get to look at those things and go, there you are again. And rather than turning away from it, we get to go, there you are again. I'm gonna integrate this, and I'm gonna bring light to it so that I am more radiant and more powerful in who I am on the planet. And the last thing is standing in our own truth. Sometimes people don't like the things that we choose to do, right? They may think that they know what's best for us or that something is better for us, and it's still gauging coming back to center. I can remember when I first decided to move my life to Egypt, I had so many fearmongers and so many people terrified, giving me news articles and telling me, do you know what's going on there? And oh my gosh, it was crazy. But there was something in me that knew. There was something in me that knew that it was what I needed to experience to grow and evolve. I knew I had to do it. And so we know what that is. We get to tap into that. We get to unconditionally love ourselves deeper by doing the work from within. As Elisha said, we don't always know what the other person is here to learn and to evolve into. And so again, from this article, the questions that I came to in living in the world, because I think that it's not just in our local communities. We see it on the news. We are so influenced by the media these days and by what's going on in the world of effect. And so rather than putting our attention on where we don't want things to be, it's about putting our attention where we want our life to be. So how do you see the beauty all around you when all you can see appears to be falling apart, dilapidated, trashy, and uncivilized? Do we turn from the condition of what we see in front of our eyes, the suffering or the pain, the poverty or the injustice, and call it perfect? Or do we step back and see it as it is? allowing it to be what it is so that in turn it may bring the gifts of insight, action, innovation, creativity, and change in all of its perfection and wholeness. Can we see ourselves amidst these moments? So it's really where we put our attention. And can we love anyway? Can we love ourselves anyway? Can we love everything out there anyway? So I want to call us into a deeper understanding of this love. As Elisha pointed out, community really allows us to see ourselves. Can we see the ways in which we've judged other people, or that we're playing small, or the way that we're being critical of a family member, or even of ourselves? What I'd like to do is take you through a short inner experience. So if you could just close your eyes for me. Allow yourself to take a few deep breaths. Knowing that there is only one thing going on and one thing happening, and that is the presence of life itself. Breathing me and breathing you. Allow yourself to visualize someone in your life that maybe you have had difficulty with, or a situation that feels unresolved. Maybe it's a person that you judged, or a situation where you've judged yourself. And allow the feelings of that to become present in your body. And breathe. And now think of a time where you were fully, completely living in your joy and in your love. Maybe you were in love, or maybe you were experiencing such happiness. Bring in this feeling of love and joy. Recognizing where that is in the body. And now, if you're willing, wrap that person or that experience with this feeling of love and joy that you feel right now. Wrapping yourself up. And now, with your hands over your heart, give this love back to yourself. Breathing in and breathing out. And repeat after me. I love myself exactly as I am. I am an expression of the Most High. I am the creator of my destiny. Everything I want, hope for, and desire is already mine. I let go of my judgments and worries, and I trust that life is revealing more love to me now. I let go of my judgments and worries, and I trust that life is revealing more love to me now. And so it is. Amen. And taking a breath and opening your eyes. And I would like to just close with this quote. When we are able to meet people right where they are, standing in truth, love, harmony, freedom, tolerance, and acceptance, we will move the world with our conviction of love and radiance. When we have truly seen the underbelly of a culture its darkness and its light, the places where it must grow, shift, and change, just as these places must within ourselves. I truly believe we have become global citizens. Namaste. Thank you so much. Peace and blessings.
So continuing in that space, this is a song about listening to and being held by that presence that knows our eternal, unconditional